What these proposed budget cuts discredit what the Amherst community, my community, stands for, and I implore you to find a way to keep the staff and programs being cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Next online speaker, Allegra Clark. You should be able to unmute, and then you can speak for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Allegra Clark. I am a graduate of Amherst Regional High School, and I am a parent of a current Wildwood second grader. I also have a student who will be enrolling in the kindergarten for the fall. I am, again, I feel like a broken record, but here asking that cuts not be made on the backs of our most vulnerable students. Year after year, we're seeing reductions in special ed, we're seeing reductions in the specials, and I have serious concerns about whether the proposals would allow for the co-teaching model to continue in the way that it does. And I just want to say from my own experience, we have had such great educators at Wildwood, both in the classroom teachers and in the specials. Right now, my son's classroom has over 20 kids in it, and the other second grade class has over 30. They did add an additional teacher to that room mid-year, but there are still over 30 children in one classroom. And that is a really difficult thing for a lot of the students to learn effectively, and with that many children in the room, even with numerous adults in the room to manage the classroom. So I'm concerned that cutting any more educators would really negatively impact the classroom sizes. And again, we had a number of students add to the grade after, after September. So it was kind of an ongoing enrollment issue that we saw, but even a few weeks ago, my son said there was a new kid in the classroom. So I again have concerns around the classroom sizes. If we're losing more teachers, what is that going to look like for our students? And again, 2 years ago, we were here asking that the library paraeducators not be cut. Those positions were cut. Ms. Wells put out a really fabulous list of the ways that losing a paraeducator in the library would impact services to the students, and I just am concerned about what having a 0.9 employee would do rather than the full-time employee to those services, as well as all the other specials. So, like many other speakers have said, please, let's bring a full level service budget to the town and figure out how we can make that happen for our students. Again, we have a year until the consolidation of the two schools, and I imagine there might be some shifts when that happens, so please, let's not shortchange our students.
Thank you. In the room, Betsy Dinger.
Hi, my name's Betsy Dinger. I'm a special education teacher in the district, and my job is to teach the 8, 9, 10 most challenged readers that we have. And my position's getting cut, as you've heard tonight. I want to tell you that this program works, all right? In the last 5 years, 19 students have come to me. 84% of those kids have come to me reading at a kindergarten and first grade level, not because my colleagues have not worked extremely difficult to help them, extremely hard to help them, but their neurological pathways needed to build those brains require intensive services. In the past 5 years, 82% of my students have graduated, or 82% of the kids that have graduated in that time have been reading 3 to 5 grade levels above where they started from. 2 years, typically, all right? The program works. That's what I want to tell you. Now, I want you to indulge me a little because I also want you to feel what it feels like to be these kids. So everybody, I just want you to do this one thing for me. I want you to imagine a problem that you've had in the last couple of days. You know, how am I going to get these 3 kids to 3 different places within my at the same time? Or what's this Wordle? What's the answer to this Wordle problem, right? And you're working and you're working and you're working and your brain's thinking and you're struggling and all of a sudden, boom, there is this just explosion in your mind and there's the solution. You can feel your brain crackle, right? You can feel yourself feeling relief and joy, and you're ready for the next challenge. Now I want you to imagine being a kindergartner, and you go to school, and you're so psyched, and they give you these letters, and you're looking at these letters, and they tell you these letters have sounds, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to problem solve this. My brain can figure this out. And you try, and you try, and you try day after day, week after week, month after month, and yet your brain can't figure that out. It's like an eternal Wordle word that you just can't get to, all right? And then you go to second grade, and the first grade, and the same thing, but this time they give you 3 letters. And when they show you those letters, they say, these say a word, and you're like, I got it this time. I'm going to be able to figure out what that word is. And you try, and you try, and you can't. All right, your brain doesn't do it. Those are my students. They come to me. My job is to get their brains to crackle. My job is to do that through intensive, individualized instruction, and it works. I want to remind us that we're a public school, and our primary obligation, the reason we're here, is to teach reading to all of our students. Not some of them, not most of them, but every single one of them, right? All I'm asking is please can we find a way in this community not to balance the bucks by sacrificing the education of our most vulnerable students. And what we know things that work for these students, and I think I'm simply asking for an opportunity to keep doing it.
Thank you. Our next online speaker, Rachel Hall on Zoom. You should be able to unmute yourself. I think you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. I couldn't hear my name.
Oh,
called, but
sorry.
I just
Go-
want to make sure I'm.
Sorry
good to
about
go
that.
to
You're good.
talk.
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm a parent of 2 Fort River kiddos, one soon going to elementary school. And I don't have much to say that hasn't already been said. I think we just need to ask a different question, and it's not if we're going to fund these positions, but how. And we need to ask the town that. I cannot believe what we are asking. Like, I know why I'm here tonight, and also listening to the educators speak is gut-wrenching. I cannot believe we live in a town as elite as Amherst, with the people that purposely move here, with PhDs and braggadocious master's degrees and all the things, and I'm an overeducated person myself, so I'm not speaking at you, I'm speaking with you. And that we have educators begging to teach our children to read. Like, I really can't believe it. It brings tears to my eyes. I can't believe under this administration that we are thinking of cutting the needs of children. And we have people here begging to educate our children. No one's asking for a Ferrari. No one's even asking for, huge pay increases. We are asking to sit in a classroom and with our most vulnerable population and educate them. What could be more important? These lives are so vulnerable. It's not how or if we fund these kids, it is how we make this happen. Thanks for everyone who showed up tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Thank you. Next in the room, Julie Haddad and friend?
Alvy Borel.
There you go. Thank you. Colleague. There you go. I mean, you can each, like, if one of you starts and the other one, yeah, you can, sure.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Julie Haddad. I'm a
special ed teacher at Crocker Farm. I'm a resident of Amherst. I'm a parent. I have 3 children. My oldest is in first grade at Wildwood, and I have 2 more coming behind them. And I think it's worth mentioning that my property taxes are more than 20% of my take-home pay. So anyway, what I'm here for is to read a letter that was written by all 6 special educators at Crocker Farm. And it's to address the proposed cut of the intensive decoding and fluency intervention program that Joanne and Betsy spoke about. So some of this you've heard, but I'm going to read the letter. So first, the history of how this program came to be. Prior to the program, the district was paying for out-of-district school placements for schools designed to teach students who are most impacted by dyslexia. Typically, these were students with double deficit dyslexia who are not making progress in our schools despite explicit research-based, systematic special education, small group instruction. And the costs were prohibitive. Tuition at out-of-district placements can exceed $60,000 per year, not including required transportation costs. Over the past 5 years, the Intensive Decoding and Fluency Intervention Program has serviced 19 children, 82% of whom were discharged after only 1 to 2 years. So the cost saving of this in-district approach is evident. In the current model, right, the district pays to train 1 teacher in many reading programs and approaches, and this person then acts as an additional reading teacher for the students per their IEPs and runs professional development, trainings, and consultation with the rest of the special education academic staff. So the model is cost effective not only in reducing potential out-of-district placements, but also in efficiently training and disseminating knowledge to special ed staff across the district. Over the past several years, we special education staff have received significant training in teaching students who are dyslexic, and still special educators and classroom teachers are not able to move all of our dyslexic students at a pace that will allow them to become efficient readers and access the curriculum. So students with double deficit dyslexia brings multiple barriers to learning to read, and currently when a student is not able to make progress in special education, small group instruction, then they are considered for the Intensive Decoding and Fluency Intervention Program. So if this program is taken away, then efforts to help those students make sufficient progress will fall back on the general education and special education teachers, likely with the same inadequate progress as before the program. Students will not have access to intensive therapy to become capable readers during the crucial elementary years.
Right, tag. Right. The program is effective. Among 3rd through 6th grade students coming into this program in the last 5 years, 84% came in reading at or below a first grade level. 11 students have been discharged from this program in the last 5 years, and 82% have made between 3 and 5 years growth. This excludes 2 students who moved after 1 year in the program, at which time they had made 2 years growth. The efficacy of this program means that dyslexic students are able to successfully make the transition from learning to read to reading to learn, and close the gap between themselves and their non-disabled peers. This sets up dyslexic students up for the long-term success in middle and high school, allowing them to remain in district, take more general ed classes, and set them up for post-secondary success in college and careers. Whether your concerns are for these students, the peers around them, the reality of the budget crisis, or a combination of these factors, it is clear that keeping the intensive decoding and fluency program is a win-win for the district, both educationally and financially. Sincerely, the Crocker Farm Special Ed teachers. All right. I'll say all the names real quick. So Aaron Cassiopo, Julie Haddad, Veronica Douglas, Leslie Doherty, Alvaro Burrell, and Joanna Bradbury. Thank you.
Thank you. Just 2 housekeeping things. If you would like to submit your written to me to be added to the record, you may. And if anyone past has spoken and had a written thing that they read from, if you want to submit it to us, you're welcome to do that. And secondly, just so you guys know, Amherst Media is back up and running. So if you're in touch with people out there, you can let them know Amherst Media is back up and running. Thank you, Amherst Media. Next virtual commenter. Becca Watkins, you should be able to unmute.
I'm Becca. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm Becca Watkins. I have 2 children at Fort River School. My family moved here about 3 years ago. We had the privilege of choice in deciding where we wanted to move, and we very specifically chose Amherst. One of the reasons we chose it was because of the public education system. We had heard really amazing things about it. And I have to be honest, we've been sorely disappointed in our time here. It's not for the lack of caring and empathetic school teachers and staff, but the message that the town is sending us is that our public education is not a top priority. I am begging you, the committee, and the town and the higher education institutions to make our schools a top priority. It's not a choice, it's a have to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room is Ariel Templeton.
Thank you. My name is Ariel Templeton. I am the band teacher at the elementary schools, an Amherst resident, and the parent of a 5th and 8th grader. As a parent, I'm concerned about the impact these cuts will have on my own children. As a teacher, I'm deeply frustrated by the ongoing situation. It seems that this is becoming an annual scenario. Another winter, another round of having to advocate for our band and orchestra programs. The more students we have enrolled in our program, the more successful it becomes, the more we have to fight for it. Our team is absolutely exhausted by this continued job uncertainty. I honestly feel selfish advocating for our program when there are so many unacceptable cuts on the table, cuts that impact our most vulnerable students the most. I can tell you what this means for our bands and orchestras, though. A 0.1 reduction may seem small, but it means roughly 4 fewer hours per teacher each week, totaling a loss of 12 hours weekly across the department. Given our team's already maxed out teaching load, this reduction will force us to cap enrollment, significantly reducing the current total of 375 elementary band and orchestra students. This will limit access to instrumental music education, disproportionately impacting those unable to take lessons outside of school. This creates a significant equity issue. Our program has already absorbed significant cuts over the years, such as the consolidation of the regional instrumental music team from 4 teachers to 2. With fewer students in the elementary feeder program, the impact will be felt at the middle and high school levels, reducing opportunities for students to participate in instrumental music. These cuts will also result in larger lesson sizes in our very small teaching spaces, preventing us from offering individualized support to students who need it the most. We will also have to reconsider our concert schedule. Currently, we host 8 unpaid evening concerts each year, which is unsustainable on reduced hours. A reduction to our music program will also mean less regional and statewide recognition for our district. This year, 10 of our high school musicians auditioned and earned spots in all state ensembles. 30 got into senior districts, and 15 6th through 8th graders got into junior districts. Several of these students earned top seats in these ensembles. This is a major accomplishment. With these reduced resources, though, we will see these numbers decline. We face cuts every year. It seems that learning an instrument is not valued as impacting academic success. However, countless studies beg to differ. It is a fact that students who play in band or orchestra do much better academically, have higher graduation rates, and are more invested in school. This is not a loss of time on learning. Learning an instrument enhances learning, teaches responsibility and perseverance, and boosts confidence. We see this growth in our students firsthand. It also gives those who struggle academically or socially a place to shine and to belong. These cuts will take that away from them. The ARPS music program is a hallmark of our district and a key factor in attracting and retaining families. At a time when we are losing so many students to school choice, reducing programs like ours would be a significant setback. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next virtual commenter. Lynette Arnold, you can unmute and you have 3 minutes. Hi, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lynette Arnold. I'm a parent of a child at Fort River Elementary School. And I wanted to read a letter that my child wrote. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, okay. My computer is telling me that I'm done talking. I don't know why. I wanted to read you all a letter that my daughter wrote to the school committee. My name is Sophie, and I go to Fort River Elementary. I'm in the 3rd grade. I do not like the idea of not having full-time specials teachers and special education teachers, because specials is a break from schoolwork, so everyone looks forward to it. Another fact is that they, the special teachers, are the only teachers we have over the years at Fort River. So we form bonds with them over time. As I do not need help from the special education teachers, I do not have much information about them, but I have been in a group with them before. They help kids who need extra help with school and help them a lot, like a lot. So that is why I think it is not a good idea to take away special education teachers and make specials teachers not full-time. Signed, Sophie, and you're missing her beautiful fancy signature that she added at the bottom of her letter. I wanted to bring her voice into the mix because I think it's really important for us to think about the students. That's what everyone is talking about here today, and I hear that in the voices of our teachers and our administrators. And it's so touching to hear the amazing efforts that everybody is putting into our children's education, and it's also deeply heartbreaking to think about the implications that these cuts would have for our students. So I would urge you as the school committee to vote to reject this budget, to go back to the town, to demand more funding for our schools so that we can meet the needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room is Ella Templeton Suzuki.
Hi, my name is Ella Templeton Suzuki. I am in 5th grade, and I go to Fort River Elementary School. It has come to my attention that a lot of really important teachers are getting cut to part-time or completely cut. A lot of these teachers are the types of teachers that help a lot of students get through the day. For example, if a student doesn't feel too confident in math, they might go to art class and feel really confident in their art. Or if they have a hard time reading, they would have someone that helps them read. Also, some kids don't feel like they belong, but band and orchestra provides them a space that can make them feel like they belong. Because of these cuts, kids who already have a hard time at school will have an even harder time. A lot of these amazing teachers who keep on fighting for their jobs every year are really important, and without them, or with them being at school less, school would be a lot harder. When I say this, I am fighting for all the teachers, not just the ones I am giving examples about, whether they are getting cut or not cut, because every single teacher is needed. So I am asking you to please not let these cuts happen.
Thank you. Next, Marisol Bonifaz, you should be able to unmute. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Marisol Pierce Bonifaz, and I'm a resident of District 1 in North Amherst. I'm here today as a community organizer, as a concerned citizen, but most importantly, as a high school senior. I also went to Wildwood. I have been a violin player since 3rd grade, and I've been playing the violin for 10 years. The violin has taught me dedication, diligence, memorization, and how practice can make perfect. I'm currently in an orchestra of around 30 beautiful players at the high school, in which we make music every day and fill the hallways with the swells of harmonies and melodies. Now I'm also a mentor for elementary and middle school students, learning instruments at a young age. And this is necessary for their upbringing, well-being, and dedication. I love the bright in their eyes when they understand a passage and their focus when counting the rhythms. These learnings trace to their academic learning and other aspects of their life as well. I would not be able to play the violin without the generous support from my hardworking orchestra teachers from elementary school to high school, and to maintain the advances in orchestral knowledge, we must keep elementary school music education to its fullest. I ask you to maintain this school funding and protect young children's right to learn instruments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Yasu Suzuki.
Hello. My name is Yasu Suzuki. I'm the orchestra teacher at the middle and high school, and I'm here to advocate for preservation without reduction of elementary instrumental music program. This program is the critical foundation for the thriving music programs in our district. Cutting funding or support would have lasting and detrimental impact on our students and the future of the district as a whole. Under the leadership of Ms. Templeton, our elementary band program has seen remarkable growth, far surpassing pre-COVID numbers even in the face of challenges posed by COVID-19. We're finally approaching the strength of the program from 2 decades ago that I keep hearing about, when our district was widely known for its outstanding music program. This success, however, is dependent on healthy pipeline of students beginning their musical education at the elementary level. If funding is reduced or eliminated, our middle and high school music program will be severely impacted, resulting in smaller programs, fewer performances, and diminished community engagement. The importance of music education cannot be overstated. In a world where much of education is shifting to digital platforms, instrumental music remains one of the few programs that is not screen dependent. It teaches students responsibility, teamwork, discipline, and fine motor skills that are vital for their overall development. Reducing access to these programs will limit these valuable opportunities and create an inequity where only those students who can afford private music lessons will have access to instrumental music education, leaving many students behind. It is also important to note, and this is really important, and this goes for all the positions that we're getting threatened to be cut or reduced, that historically, once a program is cut, it is nearly impossible to restore. Once we begin to chip away at these essential programs, there's a dangerous trend of further reductions that can spiral into the complete loss of valuable educational offerings. Music programs once diminished are difficult to rebuild, and the negative impact of students' educational experiences can be long-lasting. This is not a trend we can't afford to follow. Moreover, as our district continues to face competition from private schools, charter schools, and other districts, it is essential that we maintain unique programs that attract families to our community. Our music programs are an essential part of what makes this district special. Cutting these programs not only harms the students directly affected, but also reduces the appeal of our district to potential new families who are looking for well-rounded education for their children. Please consider the long-term impact of any cuts to the elementary instrumental music program. A thriving music program is integral to the vibrancy of our school district and the broader community. We have a real opportunity to continue building on the success we've achieved so far, but we cannot afford to sacrifice these programs that are so essential to our students' growth and to the future of our district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next person online. Kate Westerfer, you should be able to unmute shortly, if not now.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, I'm Kate Westerfer. I have 2 roles. I'm a mom of eventually 3 in the district, 2 currently at Crocker Farm, 1 to join eventually. And I'm one of the intensive needs teachers at Wildwood. I've worked in the district for 7 years, 2 years as a BCBA at Fort River, and I've been at Wildwood for the last 5 years in my role as an intensive needs SE teacher. So I've got a pretty good sense of the state of the elementary schools, having been associated with at least all 3. My biggest concern that's, I guess, relatively novel to what everyone else has said at this moment is that these reductions reflect a loss of space for connection and space for consultation. One of the biggest gifts this year that I've experienced has been collaboration that has offered me an opportunity to improve my reading instruction for my learners. The majority of my learners present with intensive special needs. For people who are less familiar with that, it can present in a lot of ways, but it doesn't mean that those students don't deserve robust reading instruction, and that is not necessarily my specific training. I've received significant and impactful training from our intensive needs reading specialists, and it has changed the way that I've taught at least 5 of my students this year. And I've already seen substantial growth and progress within those learners. As a mom, I moved to Amherst specifically for the educational program. We had the privilege of choice, and we wanted to be in a district where my kids could grow up with the diversity and the educational promise that Amherst presents. I guess my hope for our district would be that we could push back at the town a little bit and ask them to fulfill the promise all the families who live here are asking for, and all the educators I hear in the room are asking for, and all the administrators are trying their hardest to fill. So that's what I want to offer, is that I hear everyone in this room asking for more for our students and to fulfill the promise that we've made to our students. And that just requires the town to provide the funding.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Kaylee Kaiser.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Kaiser. I've been the PE teacher at Fort River for 12 years, but I yield my time to my colleague Daniel Espinoza, the art teacher at Fort River.
Okay, thank you. Daniel?
Hello. I'm Daniel Espinoza, and I'm the art teacher at Fort River Elementary School. This is Kaylee, my colleague, and we together represent the 5 special subjects teachers: Trevor, who teaches technology; Heather, who teaches music; and Molly, the school librarian. And each of us teach every single one of the 385 students attending our school. And I'm the only art teacher for those 385 students. Kaylee is the only PE teacher for 385 students. Trevor is the only tech teacher. Heather is the only music teacher. Molly is the only librarian for 385 students. Each of us meets with 23 classes of different students every week. These students all have vastly different developmental needs because they're from kindergarten through 6th grade. Our school serves the largest population of K-6 special needs students of any elementary school in the Amherst Pelham district, and our teaching includes the IEPs for all of those students. And yeah, this is the general landscape for special subjects in our elementary school. And while these proposed reductions to our positions would create impossible losses for students at our school, we are aware that the proposed cuts to similar art, music, tech, library, PE, and special education positions at Crocker Farm and Wildwood would have profoundly detrimental impacts upon all students attending those schools as well. At our school and across the 3 elementary schools, the proposed labor cuts would eliminate 10 total teaching positions, cutting 8 critical special education positions, and reducing the working hours of multiple special subjects teachers like Kaylee and me. This proposal would create further strain on our schools, which are already struggling with high student-to-teacher ratios, and the proposal is unacceptable. And were it implemented, it would have a profoundly negative impact on every student, especially our special education students. With these proposed reductions to the special subjects positions, including my position from full-time to 9/10 our current hours, it may appear that the district is reallocating needed funds from a limited number of positions to balance a budget. What they're actually doing is eliminating critical prep time, time spent serving every single student at every single elementary school, students with profoundly diverse needs in each of the schools. This prep time is spent organizing developmentally appropriate, special needs appropriate curriculum, individually preparing all necessary materials, designing assessments, facilitating student clubs and activities and projects, and orchestrating performances for our students, our families, and the broader Amherst community. Can I keep going? All right.
I'll let you finish up.
Oh, great. Is this, do I have like three additional minutes after this?
Oh, okay. I see what's happening. We generally don't have people assign their time to someone else, but I'll let you just finish your statement.
Okay. Basically, if the district thinks it's necessary to cut teacher labor in order to remedy budget concerns, what they're really doing is they're cutting the education of students across our whole town, and devaluing special ed, devaluing special subjects, band, orchestra, para-educators. It's devaluing the entire population of Amherst and our children. And yeah, we urge you not to reject the budget and find better solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next virtual speaker, Lincoln Smith. Looks like you're unmuted.
Hey, everybody.
Yep.
I heard you. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can
Yep,
hear me.
we can hear
It's
you.
like the COVID days. All right, thumbs up. That's what I'm talking about. So I am one of the 3 instrumental music teachers at the Amherst Elementary Schools. I actually took a pretty significant pay cut working in Springfield for 7 years to come to Amherst under the belief that there was a real belief in the community and the power of music and the importance of art in kids' lives. And what I've found is that that doesn't seem to be the case, at least not with the people who make decisions. What I don't understand is how Amherst residents pay some of the highest property taxes in the entire country and can't seem to get kids into schools that don't have holes in the roof. I can't seem to get schools that don't have toxic mold problems. With $5.7 million in their back pocket, the Amherst Town Council could fix this right now. But I think we really need to address the giant blood-sucking octopus that is UMass Amherst. And let's be real here, they pay $1.1 million to the town, which is less than what they pay their basketball coach, less than what they pay to their football coach, which hasn't had a winning season in 18 years? Come on, where is the money here? It's really upsetting to every year have to come and fight for my job, to fight for kids to have art in school. It shouldn't be because it's good academically. We know that art is important because we're humans, because we need to have creativity. We need to value brains that are different. We need to value diversity. The people who are going to be most affected, the children who will be most affected by these cuts, are the most vulnerable. They're the ones who are Black and brown students. They are the kids with special needs. They are the low-income students, because students who have resources are going to find art and music, are going to find special education services elsewhere. It will be these kids, the most vulnerable, who feel the brunt of these cuts. It is just ridiculous that in a town with so much wealth that we have to keep having this conversation every single year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Laura Yvonne Steinman.
Hi again. Again, I'm Lori Von Steinman, and I'm the art teacher and co-facilitator of the LGBTQIA Art Club at Wildwood. I'm speaking tonight from the lens of serving as a board member of the Massachusetts Art Education Association as the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Director, and one of 2 state liaisons for the National Art Education Association in Massachusetts. Art is a necessity, not a luxury. As Black, lesbian, mother, warrior, poet Audre Lorde said. So what is art? I'll share a few examples. Art is making programs that serve all of our students in equitable ways. Art is learning to read and write in ways that fits everyone in their own unique learning style. Art is modeling deep breathing when someone is having a hard time mentally. Art is playing together and learning to repair when harm is made, and that takes a lot of practice and time. Art is being a team player. Art is exploring. Art is feeling safe. As school committee members, please go to the Amherst Town Council and educate the counselors so that they can see for themselves that funding diverse, equitable, and inclusive elementary schools is a necessity, not a luxury. Thank you.
Thank you. Next online commenter. Meg? Yep, go ahead, Meg.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, I'm Meg Graham McLean. I'm the mom of 2 kids at Fort River, and you'll actually hear from them in just a second, so I'll keep my comments pretty brief. And I just want to echo much of what has already been said. These cuts are devastating to our teachers, our schools, our students, and I hope that together we can help you push back on the town council and the current budget. But I'm going to turn it over to my kids first. Carolyn will go, who's in 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Graham McLean. I'm in 5th grade at Fort River Elementary School in the original Caminantes program. I just want to say that I love my teachers at this school, and I don't think that we should be making any budget cuts or cutting any teachers. I think that you should be paying them more, not giving them less. Thank you. Hi, my name is Irene Graham McLean. I go to Fort River Elementary. I'm 9 and I'm in 4th grade. I love the band and specials program, and I really want my teachers to have enough supplies and to be able to keep their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Carol Nur.
To all the students who submitted letters and spoke, you're so brave and articulate. It's impressive and inspiring. I'm Carol Nur. I've been part of the Amherst community for 25 years. I'm the daughter of a public school 1st grade teacher, so I really know firsthand how passionate and hardworking public school teachers are. I have 2 daughters in 3rd and kindergarten at Crocker Farms who are having a really positive experience. We found the administrators and the professional and the teachers and the IEP professionals to be really knowledgeable and caring. And I'd like to read from a letter that I submitted yesterday. I'm a concerned parent of a 3rd grade student. My daughter receives daily support from Betsy Dinger as part of her IEP. She's greatly benefited from the specialized instruction she receives from Miss Dinger. The progress my child has made under her guidance has been remarkable, and I know firsthand that many students who begin working with Miss Dinger are at or below a 1st grade reading level. Thanks to her targeted and intensive support, many of these students make significant reading gains, sometimes improving 3 to 5 years in just 2 years. Early intervention is critical in closing the reading gap for students with dyslexia and other learning challenges. The work Ms. Dinger does is not just beneficial, it is essential. My child, like many others, has a significant need for this specialized instruction, and the difference it has made in her academic confidence and ability is profound. To remove this support would be incredibly concerning and would disproportionately affect our most vulnerable students. I urge you to consider the implications of cutting these essential services. The burden of such cuts should not fall on students who need them most. Our special education teachers and specialists are doing exceptional work, and this is exactly the kind of support that allows students with learning differences to thrive. While I understand these budget decisions are difficult, it seems evident that learning to read is a fundamental priority of education and should be considered one of the highest priorities. Without the ability to read, students will struggle in all other subjects and aspects of their academic journey. Ensuring that children receive the necessary interventions early on should be non-negotiable when determining budget allocations. As you navigate these difficult budget decisions, I ask that you strongly consider continuing to fund this program for at least one more year. With the upcoming transition from 3 to 2 elementary schools, we may see cost savings that could allow for the reevaluation of funding needs at that time. Preserving this program in the short term would ensure that students who rely on it are not left behind during this period of change. In addition, I want to note that it's the position, but it's also the person in the position. And with Betsy Dinger, you have someone who is solid gold. She is experienced, incredibly knowledgeable, but she possesses deep empathy and a wonderful sense of humor. And so when children go to work with her, they have a sense of comfort. She builds their confidence. They know they're going to be seen, and they're eager to learn. She's someone we should be celebrating and lifting up. I implore you to find a way to keep her in this position. Thank you for your time and dedication to our students. We really appreciate your consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person online. Rabia, you should be able to unmute.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Rabia Ahmed, and I'm the mother of a Fort River second grader and a fourth grader. My children are here watching and listening to this meeting and smiled when they recognized Miss Tammy's voice, pointed out an ESL teacher that they've seen at school, and kept looking around for the little Zoom box for the teacher who they proudly explained was the conductor at our concert, and he's really funny. These teachers are the foundation of our community in Amherst. Earlier this month, my kids, as I'm sure many of you do at Fort River's kids, came home singing R-E-S-P-E-C-T at the top of their lungs because Aretha Franklin is the musician of the month. Today at pickup, my daughter asked if I knew the song Smoke on the Water because they're practicing it in band. At dinner tonight, my son asked my daughter whether he should write Ramadan Mubarak on the placemat he is making in art for Chili Night. He also started debating the topic of the opinion paper they're writing about whether wild animals should be kept in zoos. They're learning about heart health and gym and get to go cross-country skiing. They're happy, safe, and taught by the most incredible educators who are expanding their horizons all day long and during art and music and gym and library and tech. And thank you, Mr. T, for teaching my 6-year-old how to make Google slides. Schools aren't just a place where our children go during the day. Their teachers aren't just doing a job. They're setting examples for our community and the everlasting fabric of our children's lives, and therefore enriching all of our lives. In the past 2 years, both of my kids have lost teachers in the middle of the year. I do not know the specific circumstances, but I do know that the disruption has been long-lasting, painful, and it is in this space where they're meant to feel safe, are a bit weary. How is Amherst, Massachusetts, a town that many think of as a beacon of education, a place that also hemorrhages teachers? Like many of my fellow community members here, we moved to Amherst for the community because our schools, and because of the dedication to the most vulnerable kids. It is deeply unsettling and heartbreaking to hear that our most vulnerable young residents will once again be the most impacted. At a time when education in America is under attack and being systemically gutted, Amherst, Massachusetts, as our website states, is a diverse, inclusive environment community offering numerous educational and cultural opportunities. Shouldn't we be investing in the education of our most vulnerable as opposed to cutting it once again? Our teachers deserve more. They deserve more than having to worry year over year whether they'll be employed in the fall. Don't make these cuts. The town must find the funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Jenny Arch. Okay. The next person in the room is Angelica Bernal.
Good evening. My name's Angelica Bernal. I'm a parent of a kiddo in Fort River and another kiddo in the Wildwood Intensive Needs Program, and I'm here to read a letter on behalf of the Special Education Parents Advisory Council. Over the span of just a month, we've seen as a new Trump administration has slashed critical social programs impacting millions of Americans. Many of them are most vulnerable citizens. Of these millions, one target has been individuals with disabilities. As parents and caregivers of children with disabilities, we watch in alarm. But not just as this federal landscape, to be frank. What raises our alarm are the ways in which the slashing of budgets at the federal level is also happening here in Amherst. The budgets that have been outline over $1 million of deficits, and of that amount, the targets are special education programs. And at this writing, we're hearing of teachers getting their termination. When the majority of cuts come at the expense of special education programs, we're asking ourselves what that message is that's being sent to us. Is a quality education for children with disabilities less valuable or urgent? Our programs have long been struggling. Our district has more students than ever than qualify for IEPs and 504s. And this is part of an overall national trend that we cannot ignore. According to a recent study by the Advocacy Institute, the number of students with disabilities ages 3 through 21 increased by 1 million in just the span of 4 years between 2021 and 2025. The last time it jumped that much was it took 20 years to do that. Now, for the past 3 years, we as CPAC have been to countless town council and school committee meetings begging our elected officials to refrain from making sharp cuts to these programs. We have pointed to arguments time and again about the real impacts these cuts have on our kids, how reduction to special education teachers and para means our kids are not getting what they need to succeed, let alone what is their legally mandated right. We have relayed what this means to our children, how taking away these things means regressions. It means inability to access material, loss of self-esteem, school elopement, and mental health concerns. It affects our children emotionally and physically and treats them like second-class citizens, restricted from a quality education like their peers. We say all this with passion, but after pleading each year, our elected officials are not listening. Instead, we are told that budget cuts are necessary because we must learn to live within our means and because special education programs cost too much. If we say, reconsider these cuts and look at other areas like capital projects, or at least treat us with the same equity and parity as those projects, we are told often, do you like your roads and drinking water? Education for our children is just as essential as the water we drink and the food we eat. And just as food prices have gone up, so has the cost of education. Are we expecting our schools to properly educate our children if we give them for their food allowance, one that can't keep up with the school version of skyrocketing egg prices? Should our teachers and children be penalized for things that they can't control? We are not asking for luxuries, but necessities and urgencies. We are asking for our schools to not be willfully plunged into crisis. We are not asking for anything Pollyannish, simply that our children do not study in moldy, leaky buildings, that they have access to music and art teachers and the same teachers that they've grown to love. We are simply asking to be given the same opportunity that generations of other residents have in the past and to abide by these obligations we have to younger generations. We think that's not too much to ask. And thanks to the hard work of our fellow citizens, we know that in towns like ours, the money is there. In the town of haves, we family with school-age children are the have-nots. To begrudge our children a quality education is shameful, and we can only conclude it's either a result of either a lack of political will, different priorities by elected officials, or both, and we find this troubling. But I have faith in school committee to do the right thing. And for everyone out in Zoom and here, please join us and our kiddos on Saturday, March 1st, 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. for a rally to support our schools at the intersection of North Pleasant and Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Next online comment. Jennifer?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I couldn't be there tonight, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Jennifer Curiali. I am the proud parent of a 4th grade student in the Comandantes program at Fort River. I am also a member of the ARC CPAC, and I am obviously speaking in opposition to these proposed budget cuts that would cut 5 special education teachers and 3 paraprofessionals from the elementary schools, as well as reduce specials and band teachers. We must reject the proposed budget and send it back to the town. It is woefully inadequate and would send our already declining schools into further decline. We have to send a clear, unequivocal, and unified message to the town that our schools matter. And I really have to ask, whenever there are budget cuts, why is special education always first on the chopping block? It's really unfathomable and unconscionable that we would go right for the most vulnerable students in our district as a way to balance a budget. I've heard it said many times in these meetings that budgets reflect our values. But I think that budgets also reflect our biases. When cuts like this are proposed, it really shows where our implicit or maybe even explicit biases lie. It sends a loud and clear message that we do not value students with disabilities, nor those who devote their careers to educating them. This is unbelievably egregious, especially in a town like Amherst, Massachusetts, and especially in light of the horrors that are happening in our country right now. My child is very smart and very curious and loves school this year. He loves learning Spanish, and he's also on an IEP and requires special education and paraeducator support to be able to access the curriculum. And I have to say, I saw, Kylie Kaiser there, the PE teacher at Fort River. These specialist teachers do more than what they are paid to do. Ms. Kaiser has been an emotionally safe, supportive person to my child, above and beyond what she is paid to do. He just built a connection with her, and I just have to highlight that our specialist teachers are such an integral part of our school community. They do more than just teach what they teach. They provide just so much just emotional connection for our kids. So I really implore you to reject any budget that comes before you that proposes such deep and devastating cuts to special education and students with disabilities. I urge you to stand up for our schools and send a loud message to the Amherst Town Council and Paul Bockelman that Amherst needs, deserves, and will not survive without thriving schools. We have to do better than this. Especially in light of what's happening in our country right now, please figure out a way to support our schools without sacrificing kids with disabilities, teachers' jobs, school counselors, and the arts. All students deserve and are entitled to a full and meaningful education, and special education is not expendable. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication to our community.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Ellen Boucher. And while you're coming up, Megan, are there 2 more hands raised in Zoom? Yeah. Okay. Great, sure. So we're going to take the 2 more on Zoom, and we've got 9 more in the room. So we're going to limit it to those last 11 comments. Ellen, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ellen Boucher. I'm the parent of 2 Wildwood students. And I prepared comments tonight, but I think I'm going to speak off the cuff, which is always a great idea. But I was sitting here just reflecting on my own experiences as a child. I had a speech delay when I was young, and I entered 2nd grade not knowing how to read. And it was, I was provided intensive reading services in my school, and it was transformative for me. I didn't have to take a bus and go to another building. I didn't have to pay for services after classes. I was able to just walk down the hall and meet with a nice person who helped me and made me feel included and capable. And I also had an incredibly important influence on me from my school librarian, Mrs. McCreelis. I'm a very old lady, and I can still remember her name, and I think that that is significant. It shows you the kind of impact that school librarians and other special teachers can have on children. I felt welcomed into a world of books, and that I could be confident in my reading abilities. And I became an academic. I teach at Amherst College now. My whole life is reading. And I truly believe that I would not be in the position that I am now without the services that I received as a child. And the budget cuts that are on the table are devastating, and they are going to have a massive impact on students and families, but I think they're also going to demoralize teachers. And we're expecting our teachers to do so much more without the kind of supports that they require to find their job fulfilling and to not leave the district. So I encourage you to do whatever you can to make sure that these kinds of cuts don't go forward. Thanks.
Thank you. And our next online commenter, Dan, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ian Levine. My son is a Wildwood student, as I once was. And while I applaud the plaintive and conciliatory tone taken by many in this meeting, I can no longer share that tone. I'm tired of begging. I'm outraged. And if you aren't already, you should all be outraged too. My family has paid taxes in this town for over 40 years. My brother and I are products of the Amherst Public Schools. My son is a member of the Intensive Learning Center at Wildwood. I assume that most of you don't even know what the ILC is. I didn't before I moved back. But in short, it is the home for the district's most vulnerable students. I myself am a Wildwood alum. I was fortunate to be one of many students whose lives, morals, and futures were shaped by the legendary Wildwood teacher, Brian McNamara. I continued to visit Mac in his classroom through high school, on through college, and as a young student, or rather as a young adult. That sainted man would be rolling in his grave right now. During COVID, my wife and I left Los Angeles with our son, who has significant special needs. We moved because I promised my wife that this was a town that prized education over everything else. As the home of 3 universities, how could it not? Back to our son, though. This kid has made more progress in the past 6 months than in any 2 years of his life to date, thanks to the dedicated team of educators and paraprofessionals that this town wants you to cut. My kid is one of the students Kate Westphal spoke of earlier. He is 9 years old, and in the past 6 months, to our great surprise, he has begun to learn to read. This would not be happening without Kate and without Betsy Dinger, whose job is somehow considered to be inessential. Without them, without her, the most significant academic achievement of my child's life would not have occurred. Our family owes them, the paras, and of course the other teachers, an incalculable debt, while the town is asking you to callously put them on the street. This simply cannot stand. Every one of us in this meeting, whether in the room or at home with our children in bed, is aware of the chaos currently underway in the federal government and its specific targeting of the most vulnerable among us, like my kid. We may feel like we cannot make a difference there, but we can make one here. The committee must project this budget. You must tell Paul Bockelman, who earns $200,000 a year and lives in a $1.1 million home, that he and the rest of town council need to start earning their salaries so they can provide the funding for education that literally define this town.
Thank you. Next person in the room is Vanessa Gordon.
Hi, thank you all, and thank you for everybody who's still here. This is so important. My name is Vanessa Gordon. I have 2 children in the district, one who's an 8th grader and one who's in 3rd grade at Crocker Farm. Yesterday, I already shared my thoughts in writing on the middle school and high school cuts, which I view as catastrophic. So tonight, I want to speak briefly to special education. Both of my children have benefited enormously from IEP and 504 plans during their time in our public schools. And I want to speak to why special education matters, especially at the elementary level. We know that kids with ADHD and autism, if unsupported, have higher rates of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other challenges for the rest of their lives. These negative outcomes can be drastically reduced with early intervention, and so special education can be and is life-changing and even life-saving. Special education interventions have helped my kids navigate a school and social structure that is not designed for their wonderful, quirky, neurodivergent brains. The care and work with professionals in special ed, psych, speech and language pathologists, and others have helped my kids develop skills and abilities that come naturally to neurotypical kids, as well as help them gain and excel academically, to gain confidence and create a positive learning environment for their peers in their classrooms with them. In conversations about budgets, the growing demand for special ed is often noted, and this is true because improved diagnostic methods are correctly identifying kids who would have been left unsupported in previous years, especially girls and minorities. I am privileged to have the economic resources, time, and knowledge to seek supports for my children outside of school, and I have. But integrated supports that are offered through special education are essential because they help kids in their most crucial, formative, and demanding environment. And if these cuts happen, it will be our most vulnerable and disadvantaged in our community who will suffer the most. We also talk about special education as a benefit to a particular group of people. And I want to be clear that special education benefits all of our students in our district, not just the ones with 504 and IEP plans. One of the most meaningful relationships with an educator for my son was a paraeducator assigned to another kid in his cohort who he spent several years with. So shout out to Mr. Steve if he is watching tonight. The targeting of special education every time that cuts come up is sending a message that we do not care about inclusion and equality in our schools. In a national environment that is stigmatizing ADHD and autism and other forms of neurodivergence and disability and presenting these kids as broken and flawed and a burden, we need our schools more than ever to affirm their dignity and value and place here in our community. And to be clear, Special education teachers are essential, and so are those who provide art and music education. These classes are a place where my kids have found a community, a place to express themselves and to be a full person. These classes are taught by serious educators who should be treated as such. So we need these core teachers. I'm frustrated we're here again facing serious cuts. Like every aspect of the town budget, we are facing unprecedented inflation and diminished government support, and yet our schools are being asked to shoulder this burden as though it's a problem of our own creation. We cannot cut our way out of this. We need to be more resourceful and to come up with a budget that really reflects the demands of having a quality education in this town. We are at the essentials. We cannot cut anymore. We need to go back and find a budget that truly supports the education that we value here. Thank you.
Thank you. Last person online, Jenny?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm an Amherst resident, I'm a librarian, I'm a parent of a third grader at Crocker Farm. And everyone here tonight, in Zoom and in the room, has been so articulate. So I'm just gonna repeat some bullet points here. That we should reject these cuts and ask town council to find the money, figure out a way to fund our schools in line with Amherst's reputation for education and the education that past generations of students have received here. Any non-essential positions and programs have already been cut. My daughter's in third grade, and there have been cuts every year since she started in kindergarten. And as somebody else pointed out, once a program is cut, it doesn't come back. Cutting or reducing instrumental music at the elementary level has a trickle-up effect on the middle school and high school music programs, which are essential. All of our specials, library, music, art, technology, and gym, are essential. They are not expendable. They are the only people in each building who do what they do, and they have relationships with the students throughout their years at school. I have been a school librarian. I know that they are working flat out, and going from full-time to 0.9 doesn't seem like a lot on paper, but it is a lot. Early intervention is essential. Kids have to learn to read so that they can read to learn. And that's another reason to keep our special education teachers and our school librarians at full-time. Every time we hear that the budget is less than ideal, I think we should replace that with the word Mr. Shea used earlier tonight, carnage. Thank you.
Thank you. In the room, Nina Menken? No, Nina. Next is Pete Nolan.
Hi, I'm Pete Nolan. I live in Pelham. I have two daughters in the Amherst school system, one at Pelham Elementary and one at the high school. I've been teaching reading to students with dyslexia since the early 2000s. I've taught in public schools in South Carolina and here in Massachusetts for the past 7 years. I have a doctorate in special education, and I've worked at in the Amherst School District as a special educator for the past 3 years. I taught for 2 years at Fort River, and I'm currently serving as an inclusion co-teacher in a second grade classroom alongside Lori Morenzi at Wildwood. My philosophy of special education hinges on the belief that teaching all students from a standards-based grade-level curriculum is a right, not a privilege. I believe that all school funding and policy, special education, Title I, and general education should be leveraged in a way to ensure that students who learn differently are not segregated from their peers. And these principles extend, and to extend the principles of IDEA to all students. And I believe there's no empirical evidence to support that separating students into separate settings to teach them is an effective practice. I'm a proponent of the inclusive co-taught classroom model, and I see my work in special education as a civil rights struggle. I came to teach in Amherst because I believe that they shared my values and understood the importance of prioritizing the needs of our students who learn differently. I was hired as a second grade co-teacher for what I'd hoped was a permanent position this year. I've been fortunate to be able to put my beliefs into practice, teaching 8-year-olds in the classroom who are struggling to learn to read and write. This is the age when kids start to get discouraged, throwing their arms up and say things like, "But I can't read." My co-teacher, Lori, and I plan lessons for the general education curriculum in reading, writing, and math that are universally designed to be accessible to every student in the classroom. Elements of this universal design include behavior management systems that reward good behavior, a social emotional support system that values the classroom community, clearly stated expectations for all classroom assignments, lessons presented in many different ways, complex tasks broken down into steps that can be understood by everyone, and lessons in anti-racist education. I hope that you can see that this type of instruction is beneficial to all students, not just those who learn differently. Our district has planned to lay off special education teachers from all elementary schools next year. I'd heard here tonight and in other settings that we're planning to move away from the co-teaching model, but that all students with IEPs will have their services met. Well, I'm pretty sure that that's just what we have to do. That's kind of the bare minimum. I was informed that I'm going to be moving out of my co-taught classroom. What effect will these changes have for students with IEPs? My guess is that students will receive services outside of the classroom more frequently. They'll be getting their instruction in larger groups that may not be a good fit for their needs. In some cases, they may receive services from people that aren't teachers or staff who don't have SE teaching licenses. Between academic assessment, report writing, IEP writing, and heavier caseloads, SE teachers will be overworked and have little time to plan lessons. Amherst was once committed to putting the needs of students who learn differently first. It's a huge step backwards to move away from a mission in which there's a focus on equity and hold high expectations for all students. The school must believe that all students can succeed, and this message must be conveyed to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Ellen Jedri-Gadera.
Hi, I'm Ellen Jedri-Gadera. I'm closer. I am a parent of 2 elementary school students at Crocker Farm, kindergarten and 5th grade. I'm also a member of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, or CPAC. And just hearing all the comments, I do have something written down as well, but like so many in the room, I'm finding what I'm hearing pretty compelling. I am a child of a dyslexic parent, and we don't agree on a lot these days, but she often says to me, gee, I wonder what it would have been like for me if I had an IEP like her granddaughter. And it really impacted her entire life, feeling like, frankly, she wasn't very smart. She's an excellent reader now. So hearing about the intensive reading position being cut is, it's pretty upsetting. So I am writing to you from both the perspective of myself and my husband, or I'm talking to you. I said that last night too. He is an Amherst High School graduate. We were away and we came here specifically for the schools. We bought a house here just for the schools because we knew how good they were. And more we're coming back year after year feeling like we have to fight for everything that represents what Amherst was about or is about to us. We're asking you to please not accept the budget as proposed. The cuts are devastating to the elementary schools, and they will truly impact all of our students and our teachers and our staff. The staff at Crocker Farm are amazing. We love them. They all work so hard. And we're also concerned that yet again, the cuts that are proposed are targeting special education and the arts. Amherst has an orchestra program, and from what I've heard, we're one of the only ones, or the only one in Western Mass. Everyone else has closed them down. We are so fortunate to have it. It should be celebrated and supported. And during a time when we're seeing more of our students leave for charter schools, the orchestra, in particular, the instrumental programs, are something that really should be advertised and kept strong. One parent last year, I remember, called instrumental music the great equalizer. And that is so true, especially for our neurodivergent students, like my daughter. Our own child benefits greatly from the small group sizes when she learns violin. And I know if it was a bigger group, she would have a much harder time and may not be able to play. I also want to just add that cutting our specials teachers, cutting our special education teachers, our paraprofessionals, you know, moving the SLP to an SLPA and having that SLP oversee someone, our teachers are stretched. They are stretched so thin. They are stressed. They don't ask for a lot. They work so hard, and we're asking too much of them. And I really want us to reject this budget and go back to our town council and ask for adequate funding for our schools to give what the superintendent has called basic, not the Ferrari, basic for all of our students. So again, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for fighting for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Next is Ruth Killow-Hill.
Hello, I'm Ruth Killow-Hill. I'm the school adjustment counselor at Fort River. I'm a resident here in Amherst, and I have 2 children who have graduated through this system. I've worked in Amherst since 2012. Prior, I worked in the Holyoke system, the Turners Falls, and Northampton. Amherst has the best staff-to-student ratio of all the districts I've worked in. This impacts students' academic, excuse me, my phone's starting to die, and social emotional success. Students are known here because they have relationships with their staff in our buildings. Teaching staff and paras are the hardest working I've been in any district. They work way past their contract hours. They create their own materials. They spend their own funds, but are constantly looking for ways to help students succeed because relationship with their students are important. Instrumental teachers, physical education, technology, art, music, that also makes us different. Students experience different parts of themselves and with these classes, and it's a place where they can shine. These teachers work with our students, not only during their class time, but outside, and with students with special needs, or in different groups and different activities. Again, relationships is what rises as the most important. Comandante's program in Fort River has grown to the 5th grade this year. This has brought families into our district, into our schools. This has been important for our bilingual learners and our EL students. Special education teachers are some of the best we have in Western Mass. They're intelligent, they support students to make progress. And these are also our legal obligations to meet their needs. All students benefit from these staff because they don't just work with their own particular students, they work with the whole class. They provide academic strategies and materials that will help all students to succeed. And they're consulting with general education teachers. Special education students' relationships with their teachers and staff are instrumental to their growth, as we've heard many parents talk about with Betsy Dinger and with all our special education staff. Again, relationships with students are important. Our psychologists with this reduction will need to spend more time evaluating students, limiting how much they can meet with students directly. Counselors will have to increase their caseloads in order to make up for this loss. Our caseloads have risen significantly since 2020 when the pandemic started. We need to provide these relationships for students so that they can also grow socially and emotionally. Our secretaries in our buildings, let me make this fast. With these reductions, some families will look elsewhere to charter schools. Other families, students who will be most impacted, are low income, our Black and brown students, or yellow students, will be vulnerable. Our district, compared to the other 3 districts, has the largest administrative positions in proportion to our student size. I'm going to ask to please look to the town for support for our budget, but if you have to make cuts, please leave the staff that have the most direct impact on our students, because once again, relationships is what's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Alex Lopez.
Three.
I'm Alex Lopez. I've gotten to talk to you guys before. I can't believe that this is where we're at. And I think that the value of the programs that are on the table has been spoken to so eloquently and so thoroughly that I don't want to muddy the waters at all, except to offer that I have one of Ms. Dinger's students in my family. We've spent however long this meeting drawing comics back and forth. Think about what you know about that program. Think about where that means he was at the beginning of the year. And for us to be in a quiet space, we can now write to each other and draw for each other and provide narrative for each other and read what we are writing back and forth. That is the power of being able to participate in a public space, because that is a third grader who, when I told him how boring this meeting was going to be, said, I want to be there to watch. Insisted. And I'm not going to lie, it probably would have made my life a little bit easier if he hadn't. I think that power to participate is part of what we're fighting for here. Because there is a cost that we often don't talk about in these meetings. Sometimes we'll get as honest as to say, if you don't support what I believe in, I won't support you come election time. But the reality is that's not really a fair exchange, considering that I am going to bet dollars to donuts that all of us care more about our kids than you do about having a position that lets us come and yell at you annually because you don't have the money to pay for the things we need. So there is a role that I think is also at stake here, which is that what we're not saying in our New England nicety is that everything that we are talking about is so valuable to us that you even considering this budget is a threat to our well-being, the well-being of our children, and the well-being of our community. At the regional meeting yesterday, a man called Dan on the Zoom call asked him a question, and it got a little muddled, but I think what he's fundamentally asking was, would people put their hand up and commit to voting no on this budget? And there's bureaucracy and Robert's rules. I've never been a fan of Robert, but whatever. And I can understand that people didn't want to violate the sanctity of that, but there was an opportunity for all of you to step back and say, no way in hell associate me with the budget cuts that are going to strip your children of what they need. And Robert's rules was more of a priority. When we talk about the role that you are being put into, every second that you consider this, realize that you are a threat to my family. And I would like to say nice things, but I cannot speak well of those that threaten my family. I have thought some pretty mean things about a number of you over the last year. And I'd like to say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I have also found great hope in a number of you over the last year because I saw you when you said, no, we are going to reject that budget and make sure that we move forwards. I make sure that my kids will come and pet sit for you, right? Because we can work together into a future where we are moving this town forwards. But if you are going to build monuments on the back of my children and their ability to read, if you're going to entertain that as even a fathomable idea, then you and I are going to have a very different relationship.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Next person is Ethan Todris Whitehall.
Hi, my name is Ethan Todris Whitehill. I'm a parent of 2 children currently at Crocker Farm, a 5th grader and a 1st grader. Others have spoken so eloquently about the impact of these proposed cuts on our children. It's just totally devastating. I see it all on your faces as well to hear all these stories about how these cuts are going to impact our teachers and our children and our community. I know you all are on this committee giving your time because you care like we do about our schools. So, you know, I'm here to ask you to take a risky vote and, you know, reject this budget and allocate more money for these schools than you were told were available. I want to give you guys a pep talk. You see all of the support that's been there on the Zoom, all the support that's been in this room. All the folks here and so many more folks in this community will have your backs if you go to the town council and you say this is not acceptable, we need more money for our schools. There, I know at the town council, the argument is not just what's just good for our schools. Of course, more money is better for our schools. You know, there, the conversation is about what's good for our town and our community as a whole. You know, the town manager, Paul Bachman, determined that we can give a 3.5% increase each to the libraries, the schools, and the municipal services. Okay, but does that equal division really make sense? Is the need of each of those areas exactly the same, such that it makes sense to give each the exact same increase? It seems to me that the justification behind an equal split is always, well, it's fair, or that's the way we've always done it. But is it fair, or is it really just about avoiding hard conversations? Because it seems to me that we have a crisis in our schools. Our schools are in decline. They're getting worse every year, despite the amazing work of our educators. Are our municipal school services and library in such a free fall that they need the exact same increase in budget as our schools? I don't think so. The schools need a larger increase. They need a larger portion of the budget. We're having the same problem every year. I would argue that now is the time to break this problematic pattern and have a debate about what is most needed for our town to succeed. We need to be a place where people want to come and raise their kids. Public schools are a huge part of attracting and keeping families, and of course affordable housing, which is a different issue. It's not the quality of the roads or even the library that is what matters most right now. It is our schools. To sum up, giving an equal amount of money to the 3 areas of government might be good and easy politics, but it isn't what is in the best interest of our town at this moment. I'm asking you here tonight to do what is in the best interest of our town, reject this budget, vote for a higher budget from their schools, and do the right thing, and we will have your backs.
Thank you. The last name on the sign-up list is Georgia Malcolm. And while Ms. Malcolm's coming up, I will say that because I said earlier that you didn't have to sign up in order to speak, if there's one last person who didn't sign up and who hasn't spoken yet, who wants to go after Georgia, I will ask you to do that.
My name is Georgia Malcolm, and I'm the proud parent of the student speaker that spoke at the inauguration of the town council, and what a hypocrisy, was a waste of time. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I stand before you because I care deeply, like everyone else, about the future of our students and the quality of education they receive. I know you share the same commitment, and I appreciate the work you do to advocate for our schools, because I do see you at the meetings when I attend the meetings. While the school committee has been tirelessly fighting for students and the resources they need, it is clear that the power over the budget lies elsewhere. You know, I hear everyone talking here tonight, appealing to you. The people that's showing up here need to show up at the town council, they need to show up with the finance committee, and they need to show up at Paul Bachman. Numbers don't lie. Money that is being spent, it shows. In 2019, the town had a surplus of 2.9. FY20, surplus of 1.7. 21, 5.1. 4.6, those are millions. FY23, 6.1. and FY24 5.7. You know, Amherst College gave money. They gave 2.5 million. The school's budget is 50% of the town's budget, but only a very 30% was allocated to us. So you have us getting 125, we're getting 750. So we're getting 125 for the next 3 years, each, the Amherst and the region. I mean, people have to turn out to the town. That's where the money, I mean, it's a crock. The finance, you know, people talking about social justice and they don't give a rat's ass, excuse me. Amherst is a microcosm of America, okay? And people need to understand that. People need to put pressure on Paul Buckman, and if not, you go to the polls, you recall. You change back the government if that's what it is. I was one that voted for the town council. Well, guess what? I don't live in Amherst anymore. So the people who live in Amherst, the power lies with you. Okay, I'm going to give you some handouts. These are the people who you elected. Call them. Send them emails. And if they don't support the budget, then guess what? You do not vote for them. That's the reality. The Dr. Z and the school committee, I go to the town council meeting. I was the president of the union. I saw you guys there at the finance committee. You guys, they can't do anything. The pressure has to be put on at the town council. That's where we need to show up. So, you know, like everyone says, reject the budget, you know, because it is just really and truly outrageous. Thanks.
Thank you. Any last person in the room who hasn't spoken yet would like to speak? All right. Oh, yeah? Okay, come on, you can be the last one.
Apologies for being that person and taking extra time. I know everybody is so tired, and I also want to say thank you because I know everybody is so tired, and it just means so much for all of you to be here and to be on Zoom when you have so many competing priorities in your lives, and we're all here because we want to support our teachers. And I am the parent of 2 Fort River kids and 1 on the way. I'm so grateful for the experiences that they've had there. And they are not currently part of the special education program, but I know that they benefit from it. And I know how much they benefit from their special ed teachers. They absolutely love their school. And I would hate to see, as everybody else in here, to see any cuts. Our teachers are working tirelessly. We all know that. We're all frustrated that we're coming out here every year making an argument for the basic education of our students. And I want to thank you, the school committee, for the work that you do. And I know that you believe in the schools. And I also want to reiterate the support that you have here when you go to the town council and reject this budget, as I know that you are going to do, because that is what is in the best interest of our students and our schools and our teachers and, frankly, this town. It's just absurd to me to think that this town wouldn't support that. That's why we're all here. That's what this town is. That is what we revolve around. That's what we claim to support. So thank you, everybody. Thank you first and foremost to our teachers, and please reject this budget.
Thank you. So that's all the live comments that we're going to have. We do have 14 voicemails that I'm going to play. You are welcome to stay. If you decide to leave, I'm going to ask you to keep your voices down and take any discussions outside so that those of us who stay can hear. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan St. Marie, and I'm an Amherst resident. As the mother of 5 ARPS graduates and 2 current Crocker Farm students, I've been a parent of children in this district since 2004. Over the past 2 decades, I've been heartbroken many times over the tumult, contention, and bitter divisions between people all declaring their commitment to our schools. Like many, I've questioned whether my own attempts to speak up have mattered or have made a positive difference, but I hope this public comment will help in some small way. My latest heartbreak came when I first heard of anonymous allegations of misconduct against Superintendent Dr. Z and some of her staff. This news flew in the face of my personal experience with the superintendent, who, when I first met her at a public meet and greet during her interview process, struck me as warm, accessible, professional, and sincerely committed to equity, transparency, accountability, and the well-being of all students. This positive first impression was only reinforced when I attended or remotely watched meetings with her, or when I received any of her communications with families. Most recently, I was very grateful to see her letter to families following Inauguration Day, in which she specifically voiced support for LGBTQIA+ people and immigrants. Thank you, Dr. Z, for that compassionate communication, which was unequivocal in its support of vulnerable people and which resonated with sincerity and resolve. I've also been impressed with Dr. Z's data-driven, compassionate vision for our school's future, particularly as the district faces profound funding challenges. I read the ARPS School Committee's draft of a letter to the Town Council advocating for equity between town departments after having reviewed Dr. Z's comprehensive entry review findings report. These impressive documents both left me feeling optimistic about the superintendent's and the school committee's joint advocacy for our schools. Thank you all for your hard work. My optimism on this point was reinforced by the APEA Executive Board's recent statement of support for Dr. Z in advancing fiscal transparency and district stability. Like the unanimous school committees, the APEA also spoke out in November against how the unanimous allegations against the superintendent were disseminated. For 2 decades, I've listened very carefully to the APEA because despite all the strife and administrative turnover in our district over the years, I've chosen to keep my children in the Amherst Public Schools because of their teachers. The vast majority of the teachers my 7 children have had over our family's 2 decades in this town have been outstanding educators and compassionate people who've made a real difference in their lives. I therefore hope that as the anonymous accusers come forward with their allegations and the situation evolves, you will listen to the APEA and its executive board. I also hope you will listen to parents like me who hope to support Dr. Z in succeeding in her new position as she attempts to heal rifts that preceded her, as well as those that have sadly emerged in her short tenure. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Joy Bowman, and I had 2 children to go through the Amherst Public Schools, class of 2005 and class of 2010 from the high school. And I just am calling to support the budget that will not end up leaving us with fewer teachers and fewer programs for our students. Our children had a wonderful experience in the public schools, and I think that children in this town deserve to be served. And so I hope that the committee will consider this seriously and make sure that the next generation will be ready for the problems of this world that will face them. Thank you.
Hi, this message is for the Amherst School Committee for their meeting today, February 25th. My name is Amber Cano-Martin, and I'm the parent of a 3rd grader at Fort River. I'm extremely distressed to hear about the proposed budget cuts to our elementary schools. In the proposed budget, I count a total of 10 student-facing teacher or paraeducator positions eliminated across our elementary schools, not to mention a reduction of time for our special band and orchestra teachers from full-time to 0.9 hours. These cuts are absolutely unacceptable, and I urge you to vote for a budget that fully funds our schools without making any cuts to our teachers or paraeducators. Education should be, but apparently is not, a top priority in our town. When something is a priority, we do not fund it according to how much money we have. We start with how much it costs, and then we find the resources to finance it. If my roof caves in and I only have money to replace half the roof, do I just leave the other half of my house uncovered and exposed to the elements? Obviously not. If we as a town care about our children and our future, and we value education, we will fully fund our elementary schools, and that means that the Amherst Town Council will need to find the $1.5 million elsewhere to allocate to our elementary schools. Perhaps they could start by looking in the multi-million-dollar free cash surpluses that the town runs every year. As a taxpayer and parent, I am beyond irate that the exorbitant property taxes I pay are not being used to fully fund the basic guaranteed public good of education for all children, as they are meant to do. With federal cuts looming and a federal government that clearly does not value public education, it is more important than ever that we reaffirm our commitment here in Amherst by fully funding our elementary schools. Members of the Amherst School Committee, I ask you to do the right thing and pass a budget that fully funds our elementary schools with no cuts.
and I look forward to advocating with you at the town council level for the funding necessary for our schools and our children. Our children deserve it, and we owe it to them. Thank you. Hi, this message is for the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee meeting, budget hearing on 2/26. My name is Amber Cano Martin, and I'm the parent of two children.
Dear school committee members, this is Nina Mamkin. My family has lived in Amherst for over 60 years, and I have watched as our schools have gone from being the very best in the state to barely reaching the median. I'm calling to ask you to work with the superintendent to create a budget that cuts the least student-facing positions possible so that our tax-paying families and residents can help fight for more municipal resources to support our children. I understand that cuts must be made, but the amount allocated by the town of Amherst is insufficient to meet educational standards that we must fight for. We have lost hundreds of students to charter and private schools, and that is about to get worse as Chinese immersion expands by 100 students. It is in our fiscal and community best interests to prioritize our schools' excellence, not place them on the chopping block. Please create and pass a budget that forces the towns to act in the best interest of our children.
Hello, my name is Brian Chang. I've been a resident of Amherst in District 1 for 7 years. I'm a father of 2 young children who will attend Amherst Public Schools, and I'm also a professor at UMass Amherst, and I'm deeply entrenched in education within this area. When I moved to Amherst, I was attracted to the public schools because I had heard so many great things about education in Massachusetts and Amherst specifically, but I'm deeply frustrated and troubled to hear about the proposed budget cuts to the schools. Reducing financial support is opposed to what we value in Amherst. I urge you to send higher budgets to the town council and appeal for more funds. Valuing education in our children benefits everyone. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Komorowski, and I've been a resident of Amherst in District 1 for over 7 years. I'm the mother of 2 children who will attend Amherst Public Schools starting this fall. And I'm also a professor at UMass Amherst and a very strong advocate for access to quality publication for everyone in our region. In part, I moved my family to this area because of the quality of the public K-12 education in Massachusetts and Amherst specifically, and I've been really excited to join this community when my oldest enters kindergarten this fall. So I'm deeply frustrated to hear about the proposed budget cuts to the schools, which will hamper the quality overall of the education for all of the children, but especially disproportionately affect those who are in the greatest need for it. I'm strongly opposed to these cuts, and I strongly urge you to send higher budgets to the town council and appeal for more funds. Valuing education in our children benefits our entire community and is a core part of who we are in this region. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allegra Clark.
My name is Vera Goodwin-Brown. I'm a former Amherst resident, current Northampton resident, and I teach special education in the public schools. I'm here to express my concern about the proposed cuts to integral parts of our special education programming. First, I'd like to strongly advocate for maintaining the elementary level intensive decoding and fluency intervention as currently run by Betsy Dinger. I've seen firsthand how the program provides students with profound language-based learning disabilities with the intensive individualized instruction that they require to learn. I am highly qualified to teach these students, but make no mistake, a highly qualified special educator cannot replace the impact of one-on-one, highly individualized, intensive supplemental reading instruction. It is because I am so well trained in this area that I can see just how integral this program is to some of our most vulnerable students. For our shared students, this program has without question made the difference between being a non-reader and being a reader. I think often of who I will call S, a brilliant bilingual learner with leadership qualities in spades, who for years had wrestled with the simplest word patterns despite evidence-based practices being used in her small groups. Her confidence was plummeting, and at times a bright future was hard to see for S. She began to speak unkindly of herself, to avoid work, and to withdraw. After adding adding the program to her special education services with me, her reading blossomed, and so did she. She progressed to multiple grade levels during her 5th grade year, effectively unlocking the world of written language, and with that, a universe of opportunities. She stopped saying, "I can't read," and started to say, "I already finished that book." Despite the best intentions and practices of myself and my building-based special education colleagues, S's dyslexia was so severe that she had been on a trajectory towards graduating elementary school as a functional non-reader. Unlike many families in our district, her family did not have the resources to advocate for an out-of-district placement. Thanks to IDFI, S didn't need one. As we consider district costs, it is imperative to understand that out-of-district referrals for language-based learning disability programs will increase. The cost of this for one student is conservatively estimated at $20,000 to $60,000 annually. Sending just 2 of our students to an out-of-district placement could cost the entire value of a teacher's salary. Sending any more would effectively cost the district more money than maintaining the position. I also would like to respectfully oppose the proposal to eliminate special education positions at each elementary school. Please know that we already have trouble meeting our responsibilities to our students as staffing levels stand. Although our rapidly growing caseloads may look on paper to be smaller than those in some other districts, we also have comparably very few special education paraeducators to support IEP needs. This represents a trade-off that was made when our district adopted co-teaching, a universally inclusive best practice model that initially attracted me to teaching here. Sadly, year by year, we are doing less co-teaching as our schedules are stretched tighter and tighter to accommodate IEP service needs and evaluation responsibilities. The requirement to complete academic evaluations on top of full service schedules is unique to the elementary special education positions. This additional workload already results in major scheduling issues and a paperwork load that cannot physically be completed within our contract hours without impacting student services. I implore you to continue to fund all current special education positions at the elementary level. Without these positions, we simply cannot meet student needs. We cannot be in 2, 3, 4 places at once. When we are out of compliance with IEPs, we are in violation of federal law. We have an opportunity and a legal responsibility to provide students with language-based learning disabilities and all disabilities with a free and appropriate public education. Please, as we face the very real challenge of budgetary limitations, do not lose sight of why we are here. Please do not cast aside the needs of our students. Once again, I urge you to reconsider the current proposed cuts to special education positions. I thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Alice Goodwin Brown. I was a teacher at Crocker Farm for 30 years. I've recently retired, and I live in Amherst. I'd just like to say that I noticed the proposed budget changes fall most heavily on the students with special needs and those whose lives provide them with fewer resources. Special ed staff makes possible for students to succeed in school and provides the support that they need to have a good education. Summer school maintains and develops skills for those who need to stay connected, and the parents who work with them make it possible for students to participate more fully and to have success. I hope that we can find a way to fund the programs that will support our students who are most at risk. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Phyllis Keenan. I live at 10 Stanley Street in Amherst, Mass., a homeowner in Amherst. I have 2 young adult sons who went through the Amherst school system and graduated with diplomas. Both had IEPs from pre-K through graduation. Both at this point are living independently in apartments and working jobs, and both have attended some post-secondary education. I'd like to note that both of my sons, when arriving in pre-K, their speech was not understandable. It impacted their social skills and their time learning to be with other kids and speaking in class. With the speech therapy, they became understandable, and their social skills improved because they were able to speak and be understood. One of my sons in 4th grade was the lead in his class play. He also was second in a state speaking contest in high school. He also received reading pullout from 2nd through 4th grade. When he started that, he had a pre-K reading level, and when he finished, he had an ending of 4th grade reading level. What I'd like to really note is that elementary school skills are utilized throughout the time in school and in lifetime. Learning to read, learning to speak, learning to write, learning to do math, learning to socialize. Many, many other skills are learned in elementary school. There is a large impact that happens during elementary school, and for many is life-changing. I urge you to support the special ed services at Amherst schools and keep the special ed staff and reading specialists in elementary school. where they're going to have a very large impact for many students for not only elementary school, but rest of their school time and their life. Thank you.
Three more.
Hello, my name is Lydia Robinson. I am the parent of 3 kids in the elementary system at Wildwood, and I want to make sure that we are prioritising the education of the next generation here in Amherst, in a community that focuses on inclusivity and opportunities for all. It just seems that this is the exact opposite. Cutting funding to schools will not provide opportunities for all, particularly those with extra needs. I have 2 kindergartners going into 1st grade next year where one of the teachers has already been told her job is gone. I don't understand how a job can go before final budgets have been decided. It just seems backward and bizarre. So I ask that you restore the positions and vote for higher budgets. Thank you.
Dear School Committee, I'm calling about the budget conversations that are happening regarding our schools. My name is Renata Shepard. I'm an Amherst resident with kids that have gone through and one still is in the Amherst schools. And I recently answered a survey sent from the Amherst schools asking our opinion about what classes we'd like to see. Well, I answered cooking, wood shop, financial literacy, more sports, foreign language. Some things were cut that should have not been cut. But what is the point of the survey when funds and people are being cut? In a time when our crazy president is cutting funds from everything we hold dear, our town must find a way to support our schools. Less talk, more action. Thank you.
Last one.
My name is Ross Goodwin Brown. I'm an Amherst resident and father of 2 young women who both went to Amherst Public Schools. I've been reading about the proposed cuts in the school budgets, and I wanted to register my concern both generally because of the breadth of the cuts, but more specifically on proposed cuts to special education budget. The loss of specialist intervention services is particularly concerning because, while the number of students affected may be small in number, the effect on those students is going to be great. So proportionate cuts to special education have disproportionate effects, and I really want the school committee to think about how the most vulnerable students will be affected by the proposed cuts. I appreciate your concern. Thank you.
Okay, that was the last one. I'm going to stand up. So for the school committee, our next meeting is March 18th, and then Dr. Z and I are working on another meeting the following week, so that we as a committee can talk about the budget, talk things out, ask questions, and give Dr. Z and her team time to make any adjustments or changes or take our input. And then we're working on a meeting either March 26th or March 27th at which we plan to vote on the budget. So we're not going to vote at our very next meeting. We're going to discuss at our next meeting, March 18th, and then plan to vote at a meeting to be scheduled March 26th or 27th. Okay. I move we adjourn. Oh, I withdraw the motion.
Sorry.
Deb.
There's a lot to say, and I'm going to say the minimal that I think needs to be said tonight. The budgeting process at the town level is ongoing. We advocated against the equal percentages for the sectors when that decision was being made in November and December. We were not successful. We will continue to advocate. What I'm saying now is relevant because Finance Committee has written its budget guidelines to the town manager. The town manager is obligated to follow those budget guidelines. So for people interested in dealing with this budgeting year right now, beyond the things that this committee and Dr. Z can do, what needs to go along with that at the town level is the finance committee and or town council need to rescind those budget guidelines. So any kind of advocacy that takes place, you can all do what you want to do. But from what I learned last year, the only thing that's going to work for this fiscal year right now is that process, that they need to change the budgeting guidelines, that the town council through the finance committee need to change the budgeting guidelines that they have already given to the town manager at the very beginning of this year. Thank you for that time to say that.
Thank you, Deb. Now, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Great. Now we vote. Irv?
Yes.
Jennifer's yes. Deb?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.